going to do a little video here on comparative essay writing with a focus on theme and issue. So we have a question here from it's been adapted from the 2023 exam, and it was actually the part B of an AB question, but I just turned into a 70 marker just for ease. And it was a very typical theme and issue question in that it had the easy bit and then the trickier bit. So it said, compare the extent to which contradictory aspects of human nature emerge from the study of a theme or issue in at least two texts in your comparative course. So don't forget, theme and issue will be on your Leaving Cert, and there will be a 70 marker which will allow you to write about just two texts. So you can write about 3 or 2. I would always write about 3, but you will not be punished if the quality of your work is good enough. You can get top grades by just writing about 2 texts, okay? So don't worry about that. Okay, so of course the really important information at the start is to give the names of the texts and the author, director, all that stuff, the abbreviation. So I'm doing this on 3 texts that are quite widely studied this year, but this video is not about these texts, okay? It's about how to answer questions. So Philadelphia, Here I Come, PH, a play by Brian Friel, Educated, E, a memoir by Tara Westover, Ladybird, L, a film directed by Greta Gerwig. The key words in the question are contradictory aspects of human nature and emerge from the study of a theme or issue. Now, the second one here, that's the easy part, because most of you will go into the exam with, I hope not rote learned, but very well prepared references to your theme if you're studying theme. You'll know what you want to say about your theme. You'll have your 3 elements of your theme prepared. We've discussed that in previous classes. You'll have your key moments ready. You'll have your core material. You have the information that you need. So the question will allow you to use that prepared material, but you have to display an ability. This is what you're being tested on. It's not a memory test. You have to display an ability to adapt or improvise and use that knowledge to answer a question that might be slightly tricky. So the contradictory aspects of human nature, that was that part of the question that you might see some students struggle with. In fact, if I can be honest, a lot of students. Because once again, always fear of sounding patronising. Last thing I want to do is patronise you. It is my fundamental belief that the vast majority of students haven't got a clue what they're being examined on in English. They think it's a knowledge exam. It's absolutely not a knowledge exam. There is an expectation that you will go in with having studied your text, yeah, but you're being examined through them. What you're being examined on is your critical thinking skills. But I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Don't worry, I've done it too often this year. Okay, so I've got a theme which I really like, and it's the complexity of interpersonal relationships. So when you look at text, there's always characters, and there are always issues that emerge from the relationships within those characters, particularly when their close family relationships are depicted. So I don't think there's any such thing as and I've at the risk of repeating myself because I've done this on the mind map, I don't think there's any theme that's the wrong theme. I like a broad one. Some teachers like things like identity or things like power, and power is a good one. They're all good. There's no such thing as a bad theme. It's how you deal with it. So what I'm suggesting is you're going to write an essay in which you develop, in a question like this, see the way it says aspects, see that there? So one of the things you've got to ask yourself is how many? Now, for me, 3 is the magic number, de la soul. Some students will only develop 2, some will develop 4, but 3, if it's done properly, and this is what I'm going to try and show you here in this video, can be perfect. Now, I have a way of developing out a point in the comparative essay, a methodology. I want to make this absolutely crystal clear. This is not the way. It's a way. And many of your excellent teachers will have, a strategy for writing comparative essays that really works. So follow your teacher's advice. This is a way that I have been teaching the comparative for a number of years, and I've gotten very good feedback from students saying that when they've adopted it, it works for them. But there are other students who would say, well, no, actually, I prefer the way my teacher does it. Super. Once you go in and you have a methodology, that you're comfortable with, once you go in and you're able to write in a way which, allows you to get your point across, no problem. Okay? I always like the idea of starting with a topic sentence which identifies the subject or the point being made in the section of the essay. In these comparative essays, you're writing in sections rather than single paragraphs. I think that is very important for you to know. Then step 2, present your evidence from the first text without trying to write more than 5, while trying to write no more than 5 sentences on that text. Then link in your second text, give your evidence from that. Again, don't write too long about that, 5 sentences maximum. Then refer to the question and link through to your third text and probably a sub-paragraph. You can split these paragraphs into A, B or ABC sections. I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. Bring in your evidence from your third text and then contextualize. So that's the abstract. Now I want to show you the concrete. So I would always my starting point is always my key moments. And my key moments, I'm a quote guy. So some students and some teachers will say, quotes, we don't need quotes for the comparative, and that's okay, I respect that. But what we must say is that every answer must be evidence-based, okay? So quotes, for me, offer substantial evidence. But that's not to say the key moment reference can't do the same thing. Some people like pineapples on pizzas. So I've got my 3 key moments, and my point here that I want to make in all 3 of these texts is that there are loving relationships, particularly parent-child relationships. But those relationships, instead of being the source of, comfort in a difficult world, are actually the source of great pain. So that's a point I've already developed with my students. Then we look at this question, contradictory aspects of human nature. Perfect, we do this question. So if the question suits your prep, off you go. And these are just the steps. And, whether you think this is effective or not, I don't know. So I always start off with a topic sentence. This one's kind of long, but I don't think it matters really once your punctuation and your grammar is correct. One of the most interesting aspects, see that word aspects? Why is that there? Well, because it's in the question. Of this theme, now again, you're saying this theme, because this is not an opening paragraph. This is just a section from the middle of the essay. So the opening paragraph would outline what the theme is. And the theme is, of course, as I said a few moments ago, the complexity of interpersonal relationships. One of the most interesting aspects of this theme to emerge during my study of these texts is the idea that intimate relationships, rather than being the source of comfort in a challenging world, are often the direct cause of suffering. Now, I haven't mentioned the word contradiction there, but it's clear that I'm on that aspect of the question. I'm using comparative phraseology, I'm talking about them together, and my section has a clear point now. So my section is about how relationships can be the cause of suffering rather than comfort. That's a contradiction. So then go to step 2, show me for your first text. In Ladybird, or L, you can use your abbreviation if you want to. I often don't use an abbreviation for single word names of texts, even though Ladybird's 2 words. Anyway, in Ladybird, for example, Marion loves her daughter, and there is no doubt that Christine loves her mother. It seems therefore deeply incongruous. Now, see that word incongruous? Again, that's the kind of little feature of a student's work that might make it stand out, because that's a synonym of the word contradiction. So the ability to be synonymous, the ability to be synonymous, the ability to make a point in a way which indicates that you have a lexicon, a vocabulary, a dictionary of words to pull from. That's it. You don't have to use loads of big words, but like an indicator of a really top student is their ability to be synonymous. It seems therefore deeply incongruous that the relationship is the cause of so much anguish. Again, anguish, I said suffering. Here I am in anguish. So we've got that, linked through. So you've said that. Now, most students will say that and then they'll move on. I'm saying say that and give an example. A great example of this occurs in the key moment when Marion exclaims, "Everything we do is for you, ellipsis. You think I like working double shifts at the psych hospital." So clearly, she's suffering. Here we have a depiction of a woman who is devoted to the welfare of her child, yet that relationship delivers not satisfaction. So that's a piece of evidence that proves the point, the aspect that you've shown, and it's relevant to the point made in that section. So now I've written, let's count the full stops. 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences on Ladybird. Time to compare it to another text. So bring in your comparative link phrase. This is powerfully reminiscent of the depiction of Tara's mother, Faye, in Educated. So now I'm moving across to Educated. That's my link phrase. And then I give my, no more than 5 sentences on Educated. Step 4. She too, and too is a comparative link phrase, is devoted to her family and in fact gives up her independence in order to be the kind of wife her husband Jean expects. Despite this, however, her family is a source of pain rather than succour. Now again, there you have another word that indicates the student has a good vocabulary, because succour means comfort. So up here you had satisfaction, and up here you had comfort. So all these words are showing that you have an ability to make points in a sophisticated way. I don't think those words are big words at all. And this is clear from Tara's observation that her brother Sean, quote, had an intuition for nastiness, for saying a single most devastating thing that left mother in tears more nights than not. Okay, so there you've got your point is clear. The close relationships, rather than be the source of comfort or the source of pain. We've got Marion's frustration, the fact she's working double shifts. We've got Faye crying because of the mean, vindictive nature of her son. So tie that back to the question. Once again, contradictory aspects of human nature, and now I'm using the direct words of the question. We will do that every once in a while. We do use the keywords in the question, we just don't exclusively use them, are obvious from the analysis of interpersonal relationships in both L and E, and there I am using my comparative phraseology. And then you go into your sub-paragraph. So you're not finished with the point yet, because you're going to bring in your third text and you have to contextualize. So break your section up into small sub-paragraphs. And it will be easier to read on the page, rather than one big paragraph of like 300 words or longer. Gar's relationship with his father, SB, is equally damaging. So I'm still on relationships. Now I'm on to my third text, and I'm going equally another comparative phrase. And again, my evidence from my third text comes in. PH really highlights the irony, and an irony is kind of like reference to contradiction, of the fact that two people who really love each other can be the source of so much pain to each other. One One of the more poignant key moments in the text occurs when Gar tells Madge, in as flippant a tone as he can manage, flippant means pretending he doesn't care, whether he says goodbye to me or not, it's a matter of complete indifference to me. 2. Of course, this could not be further from the truth. 3. Gar is utterly desperate for any sign of affection from his father, yet cannot bring himself to communicate with SB, and consequently both men are left writhing in silent agony. 4 sentences. So I've got my theme, which is the complexity of relationships. I've got an aspect, which is these relationships can be the cause of suffering rather than comfort. And I've got 3 good examples from each of my texts, and I'm marrying them together without writing too long about any text. I then come to the end of my section, in which I just tie them all together and contextualize my point. There is no doubt, therefore, that the study of this theme, in these texts, there's another comparative phrase. The complexities of interpersonal relationships reveal to me one of the core contradictions in human nature. Okay, and there's that word again. That the relationships we share with those closest to us are often the source of great pain rather than of comfort and solace. And you can see how the ending of the section ties back to the beginning of the section. Now, all you need to do is develop another couple. That's 400 words. If you develop 3 points, 3 aspects of the relationships, like you can tie it in, like relationships require sacrifice, or where in all 3 of those texts, where relationships can result in control or the desire to escape, abuse. These are all interlinked points. Relationships can bring pride and joy, because that, at the same time as they can bring pain, that's a contradiction. So you just need to have your 3 points and you tease them out. And what I'm saying to you is that you need to have a methodology for teasing them out. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And you see, that's the way I write. And then when you're actually writing the answer, that's what it looks like on the page there. There's my... So that's exactly the same thing that we've just written, but I've put them together into 3 paragraphs. So that's a point developed out over 3 paragraphs, where the topic sentence and the example from text 1 is in the first part A. Then the link phrase and the example from text 2, along with the ref to Q, is in part B. And then the link phrase into text 3 with the example and the contextualization is in part C. So I've got a point, one aspect, developed out over 3 paragraphs where they're all interlinked, and I'm never writing about one text for very long without comparing it to another. Does that work? I don't know. Maybe that doesn't work for you. I hope you found that useful. Have a lovely weekend.